So I recently finally got my hands on a PlayStation 5, and I've been playing a lot of Demon's Souls. I'm approaching the end of the game, and I decided, hey, I would like to craft myself a new weapon. So I go online and I look up how to craft the weapon I want, and it turns out that I need to go farm for some materials, and it turns out that the best way to farm some materials is to make my world tendency go from whatever it is to all the way to pure black, because that increases the farming potential. Now there's a number of ways to accomplish this task in Demon's Souls, but I decided that I wanted to have a little bit of fun while doing it. If I'm gonna create a pure black world tendency, I'm gonna do some evil things. I'm gonna invade players. But there was just one tiny problem. Souls games, especially during the launch window, have never had the most stable network connectivity. However, this isn't exactly that. You see, normally whenever you get invaded, you're locked into that encounter. You can't go into a boss room, you can't go back to where you spawned to try and warp somewhere else, and you can't just leave by normal means. However, nothing is stopping you from going into the game menu and hitting save and exit. This means that cord pulling is way more common and way easier than it's ever been in the past, and for people who don't like PvP, this is probably a godsend, but for people like me who either casually enjoy the player versus player experience or at least enjoy the threat of invasions and play around it as if it's a normal mechanic of the game, because it is, then this is really frustrating. So I went online to see what other people were saying about this situation, and let's read some bad Demon's Souls takes, huh? This should be fun. I commend everyone who disconnects. This has been a design flaw since the very beginning. I don't ask to get invaded, and if you're going to do it anyways, I feel perfectly justified in wasting your time. Nah, I'll keep quitting out. I don't give a about invaders wasting their time. Them invading me and fucking with me makes me waste my time, and I value my time more than theirs, so invaders can piss off. It's a garbage mechanic that needs to be removed. This is a pair of bad takes that I'm seeing a lot on pretty much every forum that I go look at. And at the very least, I can sympathize with it. At the very least, I can sympathize with it. Because, you know, back in the day when Demon's Souls was first released on PS3 and I played it and I got my first invasion, I thought it was the worst thing in the world. And I think a lot of newer Souls players go through this very same cycle of really hating the invasion mechanic. But as I got older and as I got more and more experienced with the idea of being invaded and the idea of Souls games and how they play and how the mechanics work, I came to really appreciate them as an added layer of risk on an already very imposing and very threatening game world. These games are very much designed around the idea that if you have a body form, you have a chance to be invaded by somebody who wants your soul. As a living creature, it's only natural that you're a beacon of light to all of these demons who want a piece of that. And, you know, I also understand that there are a lot of people in the PvP community who unfortunately like to troll newer players and, you know, anybody that they can get their hands on by equipping just garbage items, things like the scrap spear that doesn't really do much physical damage but will absolutely destroy your equipment, not only robbing you of the souls that you're going to lose when you die, but robbing you of the souls that you're going to lose when all of your equipment gets busted and you're going to have to inevitably get it repaired. There's also the players that use the plague knife and then will just kind of want to sit back and watch you die instead of actually killing you themselves. I legit had somebody do that to me. They plagued me, sat back to watch me die. Fortunately, I was able to heal it and then turn the whole situation back around on them. But the people like that exist. They're just there to watch you squirm. And at some level I respect that, but for every player like me who can respect a move like that, not the scrap spear garbage, but like the plague stuff, that's kind of funny. There's plenty of other people who don't want to deal with it for whatever reason. One, they may not even be good at the game. They need every advantage that they can get, like co-op, higher health bars, not having to suck on the cling ring for their entire life inside this game. Any advantage that they can get to help them get through to the next boss and defeat the next boss and eventually get through the game, they're probably going to want, because there's only one difficulty level in this game, and it's, souls. So if your skill level's not quite there and you run into a lot of these trolley players, I can fully understand and sympathize with people not wanting to deal with invaders. However, like I said, it is part of the base mechanics of the game and the ideas behind the game's world. So to just shut it out completely, to put it off entirely as something that is bad game design and doesn't belong in this game, who are you to say what the game design should be? Obviously, the developers appreciated this design and what it brought to the world and brought to the game itself, and that's why it stuck around for 3-4 more games that they created in the future. So garbage mechanic? No, definitely not. That's a bad take. Bad take. Oh my god. Did he just compare Demon Souls PvP to...
Let's say you're a female and body form is clothes that happen to be cut short compared to soul form. The invasion is someone attacking you. The logic you're presenting is that the one being attacked is at fault for wearing those clothes. They did not control the attacker's actions. Everything I'm seeing is that you get no incentives to defend yourself during an invasion. This could be considered the equivalent of defending yourself, and your attacker does not get punished and will continue to make attempts at such until they overpower you. What is the point in staying to fight back if there will be no change from it? A disconnect is the equivalent of a successful escape.
And then he goes on to say that it's sad that nobody else could see the point that he was making with his analogy? Are you kidding me, dude? Some people likely feel more comfortable in body form as opposed to the soul form. I mean, of course they do. Soul form freaking sucks. Like I said, you have to suck on the cling ring just to get your health from 50% max to up to 75% max, which means not only is your maximum health and survivability lower than if you were in body form, you cannot summon help, and because you're sucking on a cling ring, you only have one ring slot instead of 2. But let's get back to that garbage analogy for a moment. Excuse me. So what he's trying to say, I think, is that people saying that it's their fault for running around in body form that they got invaded is the equivalent of victim blaming a woman that got assaulted because her clothes were a little bit, too low cut. Terrible analogy. Absolutely god-awful. For one, Demon Souls is a video game, that's an important point. And two, Demon Souls is designed with a very strict set of rules that cannot be broken. If you're in soul form, you cannot be invaded or accept help from any phantoms. Phantoms cannot be invaded by phantoms. It makes sense. Likely, it's only going to take you one invasion, maybe even 2, to catch on to the pattern of why other players are suddenly coming into your world. Because in Demon Souls, you're not going to be in human form until you defeat your first boss. And that's usually when a lot of people experience their first invasions. Granted, it is a very confusing time. They don't understand what's happening to them in their bodies, and they might go to the internet and put in some choice words for queries to learn exactly what's going on. Is this analogy good? No, and it's probably very poorly placed considering the crap of the analogy that we're talking about right now. So ignore that. However, there are ways around getting invaded, and we talked about them a few minutes ago. Just play in soul form. once you get invaded a couple times, you're going to realize that the reason you're being invaded is because you're in human form. Or, you might even ask the internet why, and they'll tell you exactly why. So the trick is to just don't ever be in human form. Is that cowardly? Yeah, probably. I mean, look, I played through the entirety of Demon's Souls, almost the entirety of Demon's Souls, as much as possible in soul form. Like, I have plenty of stones of ephemeral eyes to put me back into body form, but I don't want to deal with invasions. So I tough it out. I suck on my cling ring, and I press forward. And by doing that, I have the peace of mind knowing that because I am a lowly phantom, no freaking red phantom is gonna come and ruin my progress. The only person that's gonna ruin my progress is me for pulling way too many gigantic dudes into the same area at the same time and being unable to deal with their crap, flinging clubs everywhere while I can't dodge through this nasty water. That's on me. It's a little bit on the designers, but you know what? It's mostly on me. I should have been a little more careful. And ultimately, I think that's what people want when they're complaining about invaders. They want to feel like they're in more control of their fate. And the way to do that is to just play in phantom form. Don't bring your body back, expose yourself to the risk, and then say that the phantoms, the invaders, are jerks for just playing the game. It doesn't make sense. As long as they're just invading and fighting and not trying to troll you, then there's nothing wrong with it in my eyes. It's a risk that you have to accept if you're going to be playing in body form, and that's all there is to it.
It's their game. You don't get to demand they play your way. You are the invader, after all.
In any other game that is a purely single-player experience with no core multiplayer component like the Souls games have, I would agree wholeheartedly. But even though Souls games are primarily a single-player experience, they are a multiplayer game at their core. If you want to play them as a single-player game, then you don't get the benefits of all the messages that tell you where secret walls are, messages that tell you where hidden treasures are located, summons that can help you defeat bosses, etc., etc. I can go on. Probably not that long. I think I listed half of the benefits of playing online in the first place, but you know where I'm going with this. It's a multiplayer game, so if you're not going to be playing by the rules, then you should either be playing offline or you shouldn't be playing the game at all. And this carries over to any game that has a very large multiplayer component as a part of its core experience. If you want to play outside of the bounds of the rules of the game, then don't play online. Otherwise, you're going to ruin somebody else's experience who was just playing the game within those bounds. And like I said, there are exceptions, like the people who use the item that just makes all of your equipment turn to mush, but that's the exception and not the norm. Play however you want to play. Invasions are, for some people, an unfortunate reality of playing a Souls game, especially near its release window. Having a body in these games is part of the risk-reward aspect of these games, and it helps make the games more deep and more interesting, and I think more fun. Risk is exciting. Risk is fun. That's why we play these games in the first place. We play them because they're challenging and they're difficult, and some people play them because the combat is really fun and like to PvP in it. And if that's not your favorite thing, then I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just like, you can talk yourself into circles with these arguments, but it all kind of circles back around to the whole difficulty settings in video games argument, and it's hard to say like where the true answer for that should lie. Ask 10 different people, you're probably going to get 10 different answers, but I think where I land on the situation is not every game is for everybody. If somebody invading your world in a way that the game explicitly allows them to, and has a fair one-on-one fight with you in a way that doesn't destroy your items or just outright troll you, and that completely ruins your experience, then I dare say that these games are simply not for you. I know it sounds like I'm trying to gatekeep the franchise or Souls games or From Software games or something like that, but that's not at all what I'm trying to do. When it comes to a piece of media, unless that piece of media has been around for a very long time and has been dissected and modified in some ways, you're gonna have a very hard time if you're only going to accept bits and pieces of it as legitimate to your experience. For example, the movie Up is one of my favorite movies of all time, but I usually get kind of bored when it comes to the actual climax of the film when they're actually going up against the antagonist, because I don't think it adds much to the movie. I much prefer the rest of the movie before that and after that, and if that part were to be removed, I think I would like the movie more. However, I know that I can't do that, so I have to accept the movie the way that it is, and if that was enough to turn me off of the movie entirely, then it wouldn't be my favorite movie. Does that analogy work? Does that make sense? You can't just accept bits and pieces of something that you like and say that you like the thing. You like parts of it. And that's okay. You don't have to like everything that everybody else likes. I think there's too much emphasis placed on like the mob mentality. Like, if you don't like Demon Souls, you must be a scrub. If you can't beat Sekiro, you must be a suckero. Like what you want to like, play what you want to play, but don't force yourself through a negative experience just because some parts of the game are enjoyable to you. And I think that's what this whole thing comes down to, is people just wanting really, really hard to really enjoy this game, but are just turned off by that one aspect. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much to DanielBR93 for being a channel member. You're a hero. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.